Well, good morning. Welcome to Hope Digital Service. I'm Pastor Sophie Woods. I use she, her pronouns, and we're so excited for you to be here today. Hopefully the audio is better than first service. We were having some technical issues, but I'm so glad that you have joined us this morning. We're starting a new worship series called Rooted today, talking about our faith practices and how we connect with God, with the Spirit, with all of creation and one another. We here at Hope Digital are a community together across time and space, and I'm so excited. Please make comments. Let us know that you are here in the comments. Please check in if you're on the app or can get to the app if you're on Facebook. And I encourage you today to think about something very important. Your own faith journey. Whether this is the very first time you've ever talked about faith and you came today and this is the start of it, or you've been doing this for 55 years. Either way, we want you to think about your own faith journey and how we as Hope Digital, as Hope Church as a whole, can connect, can grow, can worship together, and be a community together. I encourage you to log on to the Hope Giving app, behopechurch.org/give. And because this is a new ministry, there is a special fund called Hope Digital that you can give to. Now let us prepare for worship together, and I'll see you at the end of service. Bye-bye.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Isaac. I use he, him pronouns. Glad to see you all here this morning. And as we get started today, I want to invite you to stand if you're comfortable doing that, and to sing with us if you're comfortable doing that as we get worship started today, and provide some kind of alarm bell for next door that we're getting started. So let's do it. Here we go. And all I need is a good, good friend. And all I need is a good, good friend. And oh, this life is so strange and need a sense of humor. The maker is half caretaker and half joker. And we are not broken ones, just shattered pieces of the same bright sun, and trying to figure out which way to run. and we can't do this alone. And all I need is a good, good friend to get me through this. And all I need is a good, good friend to help me out when I'm burning down, or when I'm all stressed out, or when I'm underground. Life is a playground, but it takes a lot of work. So you better learn to love her, it will tear you apart. 'Cause in the end we are measured by the size of our heart, and we can't do this alone. Some of us are laughing, and some of us are joking. Some of us can't change till every bone's been broken. All the while the maker just sits there joking. We never really were alone. And all I need is a good, good friend. And all I need is a good, good friend to get me through this. And all I need is a good, good friend to help me out when I'm burning down, or when I'm all stressed out. Thank you for being around.
Amen. You may be seated. Good morning, Hope Church. Good morning, Hope Digital. Maybe you saw me trying to wave hello into Sophie's camera just a moment ago, and I didn't realize that I wouldn't be able to see myself directly, so I look crazy in the camera. Sorry about that, Hope Digital. Perhaps those of you in person also think that I look crazy, but I'm trying not to. I'm just kidding. My name's Jenny Edwards Bertrand. I'm the lead pastor here. My pronouns are she, her. I'm so happy that you're with us this morning. We are entering a new sermon series called Rooted in Hope. It is an opportunity over today and the next 3 weeks to look at who hope is, and then also who we are as individuals, and think about what that is together. For those of you who have asked me, since we moved into this building, when is our next new member class? And I haven't made that happen. This sermon series is it. So if you would like to join at the last week in October, or whenever it's convenient for your schedule, we are going to do that. And that is true for those of you online as well. So it's going to be a fun series. We really appreciate when you check in. For those of you online, we appreciate that as well. You can do that with your app. Those of you in the room can do it on the tablets when you walk in. It is really helpful to us to be able to prepare and to be able to connect with you and to see what we're doing. You can check in on the app. You can pay attention to what's coming up through the calendar. You can see other resources like worship notes from each day if you want to know what the songs are that we're doing. So I encourage you to get that app. It is a key place of communication for us. As I said in the first service, I don't know if any of you are churchy churched, but in a churchy church, you have a bulletin that has all of this information. Anyone ever do that where you walk in and you're given the thing and it's folded and it's filled with lots of paper and they fall out everywhere and you have to own things like photocopiers and lots of paper? And yeah, we don't have that here, so it's really nice. That means you don't have to call in like your great grandma on Thursdays to stuff the bulletin. That is not who Hope Church is. We use the mobile app for that. One of the things that we designed as we were developing this new church was our prayer statement. And I'm going to share a little bit more of the story of how that came to be when I get to my sermon. But before we get there, I want you to pray this with me. Dear God, as Hope Church, we pray that this is a place where absolutely everyone experiences God's love. We are a place of theological thought and conversation, and we are a community learning to live Christ-centered lives. Amen. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is worship as a place to come and connect with other people. Certainly you can worship on a walk in the woods or in solitude, but when you choose to be a part of a faith community, and this is true in Hope Digital as well, you're choosing both worship and community, which are two practices of hope. They're practices that our soul needs, the chance to center and to connect with others around you. It also means that we get the experience of music together. So as practicing this practice of hope, it includes music, and I invite you to stand in body or in spirit as we join together.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of life. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. I could see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you, so will I. So will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still falls shy, they will sing again 100 billion times. Oh, 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 oh. And God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. You left the grave behind you, so will I can see your heart and everything you've done. Every part designed a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I can see your heart in a billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
Bind us together within your love. Bind us together within your holy love. As we shared in our sorrows, we will share in your joy. Bind us together in love. Bind us together and be our peace. Bind us together and be our perfect peace. Though the tempest may rage, we will rest in your joy. Bind us together in peace. Bind us together and give us hope. Bind us together and give us endless hope. Though our tears were our bread, we will feast in your joy. Bind us together in hope. Bind us together and make us one. Bind us together and make us true one in your love, in your peace, in your hope, in your joy. Bind us together as one. In your love, in your peace, in your hope, in your joy. Bind us together as one.
You may be seated. I'll invite the ushers to prepare to receive our offering. And as we do, I want to let you know that it is because of your generosity that a group of your staff and leaders were able to go to a leadership conference this week. Be reminded of how important it is to invite people to worship, especially if you're a church plant. Inviting is the only way that you even have people. And also, this week we were able to send $135 to Home Sweet Home Ministries in honor of the first-time guests that we had in September. All of this only happens because of you. So that is so appreciated. All right, I'm going to ask the ushers and the people in the seats to do something a little different this morning. It's Perry and Greta, so I know you're up for this. Most of Hope Church's giving comes online or through a check that comes in the middle of the week. So like old school churches, you would have seen everyone put money in the plate or whatever, and you don't really see that here. We still take an offering because I want us all to remember each other's generosity. And so this morning, as they pass these baskets, when it comes past you, and I want every person in here to touch it and say a prayer of or just a word of thanksgiving for the generosity. So here's how it's going to happen. They'll pass it down the front row, then it's going to be handed back and come down the next row, and then you grab it. Then you two got it? All right, and there's some, but we can do this, right? All right, and you guys are all going to say a note of or a prayer of thanksgiving as it comes past you. The ushers will pass the baskets. Friends online, you didn't get to see what I got to see as people really prayed as we went through, and we're grateful for the gifts that come from our Hope Digital as well. So thank you for that. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about how this church came to be and who we hope to become in the future, all right? And so here it is. Really, maybe you've heard that we launched in 2014, but Hope's story really goes back to 2006. I was serving as an associate pastor in a church that had grown from 250 in worship to over 800. And we were connecting with several thousand people. I don't know, 2,000 on the books, more than that, because people only come, once a month or whatever. So that's what I was used to. And it was great, and I loved it. And then there was a position open to serve the campus ministry that I had attended as a college student. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And I talked to my boss, because in the United Methodist Church, clergy get appointed to serve places. And I said, what do you think about this? And he said, oh, no, I don't think so. That's not it. That is not where you should go. And but we're going to pray about it, because we're going to pretend that we seek to discern such things. I mean, we seek to discern such things. And so we actually really did. For a couple of weeks, he and I both prayed, and we had an appointment on the books to meet 2 weeks later. And he said, I think you're supposed to do that. I think you are supposed to figure out what it looks like for a mainline campus ministry to be thriving at a state university. And, oh, by the way, if you don't do it, we're going to shut it down. So, hey, here's your new appointment. Woohoo! So I took that appointment, and remember that part where I said I was used to a couple thousand people and kind of a brand new building? I got into a not brand new building. In fact, I didn't even have an office that was ADA compliant, and had to turn a super old, stinky Sunday school classroom into my office. But I really appreciated it. And I could put new paint and carpeting, so like it's new. I got there, and there was, I kid you not, $44 in the checking account. Relaunch this ministry, here you go, everything that you need. So that's when I learned how to fundraise, because there was one person I knew to call, and she was like, well, what's your vision for this? And heck if I know, but I said one. And it's basically like huge and thriving and awesome. And then she wrote a check for $1,000. And if someone can just write it, just so you all know, if someone can just pull out a checkbook and write a check for $1,000 without blinking, it means there was probably $100,000 there, but I didn't know how to ask for money yet. So I got $1,000. So now I had $1,044. And then it's like, all right, who's my launch team? Who's going to make this happen? And they're like, of course, this ministry has been around forever. There's got to be lots of students. And there were 8. And they're all precious children of God who I love, actually many of whom I'm still in touch with. But only of those 8, only 2 of them had what we'd call the emotional intelligence to be kind to other people. They weren't mean people, they were just socially awkward. So I had 6 weird college students and 2 who with social skills and $1,044. And we had to turn this thing around. So I was like, all right. And this gets to what Hope's about too. I looked around campus, and what I realized is that the thriving ministries, the ones with all the people, the Coolios were there. That's what everyone's saying now, just if you want to know. The Coolios were there, and they had like awesome worship and all the programming. And their theology was real judgmental. And like, here, sign this pledge of who you're going to be, college student. And then I looked at ours, and it had like amazing theology. In fact, the Wesley Foundation at Illinois State, that's now known as MERGE, had been LGBTQ inclusive since the early 90s, had made that decision, which really it should be since the beginning of time, but early 90s is still like, wow, that's early. So it's like it had great theology and a great history, and it also had the most boring worship on earth. It hadn't always, but at that point it did. I mean, we are talking, you would get, remember the bulletins I was talking about? A bulletin, and there was liturgy, and like, it was so much liturgy, and it's 9 p.m. at night, and it's 18 to 22-year-olds, and I was like, well, we can't do that. We are going to need to have a place that has excellent worship and excellent theology. And I said, okay, we can do this. And I will have, I'm sorry, my mic keeps going down and I have to keep pushing it up. Sorry for people online if I'm a little quieter there. So I can't sing or play any musical instrument, but I knew I wanted excellent worship, and none of the 8 could sing or play any musical instruments either. So I had to just start praying for excellent music, and I mean praying. And then I talked to anyone I knew who might have a college student at Illinois State, and I asked if that said college student might have any musical skill whatsoever. And I got several names. And so I cold called 18 to 22-year-olds to ask them if they wanted to start a band for a ministry that didn't exist yet but would. And I got lots of no's. But I got the right yes. And we built this band, and at the beginning, there were as many people in the band as there were in the congregation, but I didn't care. We were going to pretend like we were packed out. And in fact, that first person that was recruited, and then a second person, and only a few weeks in, Anish, who's still a leader here in this congregation, our Grand Poobah of Technology, was one of those early people in 2006. So we did grow. And I don't know how, we learned how to fundraise money and get more students, and we were out and about and kind of learned how to build something from scratch. And I have a picture from 2010. This is just some of the students at that point. We actually grew from those 8 students to about 200. And on any given Wednesday night, there were maybe 100 or so there. It was really fun, and I loved it, and I was good at it, and I could have stayed there forever. And then I got a call from my district superintendent who said, hey, what if your campus ministry launched a church? Oh, and other good news, you'll still be in charge of the campus ministry, which to this point has been a full-time job, and you'll add another full-time job. It's like, yeah, sounds like a deal. And so I said yes, but not at first. And I could have been really puffed up, like, I've been asked to start a church, but you need to know this. We were plan G, not A, not B, not C, not E, or what, D, E, or F. Yeah, thank you, Alpha. I have my teachers in the house. Thank you for helping me with the alphabet. So the 3 large United Methodist churches in town were asked, would you please start a second site? And probably in wisdom for all of them, they weren't at a place where that would have been healthy or helpful. They said no. And then they went back to all 3 of those churches and said, please, will you start a second site? And another time they said no. So when they got to me, I was plan G. All right, Jenny's a sucker. Well, you start. You know how to do this. And I said this. I said, I will, however, and this was 2012 that this conversation first started. The only way that I'll do this is if it's LGBTQ inclusive from day one. In fact, half the launch team will be queer, so it's like it just is. So if you don't want me to start an inclusive church, you need to stop this right now. And I really thought /hope /prayed that would be the end, not because I didn't want an inclusive church, but because, I doubling my job. Oh, and then that's when a baby came as well. That's when we got to adopt little newborn infant baby Van. So 2 jobs and a baby and finishing up another degree. I was younger then. I could do all the things then. I can't do all the things now. So we said yes. And so there's this thing with college students that's so awful. They abandon you every year. Like every semester, they call it graduation and getting jobs. I felt it in my soul as abandonment. So it didn't matter if you'd grown a ministry, then quarter of them, half of them would leave, and you had to start all over again every few months. So in my naive, should have known better head, I thought, oh, okay, people are so excited. These college students are so excited at the potential of launching a church. So, and there were some recent alums that were still in town, quite a few of them. And I'm like, counting all the people I think will stay in town and all the alums that are currently in town, we're going to have a launch team of like 50 22 to 27-year-olds. And that was so silly to think because people get jobs in other parts of the country, and we had 12. And that included Ryan and I, who were not college students. And then it included Anish as well. And it probably included Baby Van to get to the 12. He wasn't very helpful. So we we started to gather. We talked about what it was going to take and how we were going to need to invite people and how we were going to need good music. And we talked again about how even then, so 2006, when I noticed that you either had really good music and programs or really good theology. You didn't have both. And I started to look around at churches, all the churches in town, 200 churches in town. Why do we need another church in town? If someone wants to go to church, there's so many options. But once again, when we looked at all of them, there were very few that had both excellent musicians, excellent, fun, vibrant worship, and also inclusive, open, conversational theology. Still invested in Scripture, still looking toward God, still a Christian church, if you will, but we didn't do so. In 2013, we started preview services. A lot of them were we went to lots of places, but a lot of them were in what's now Pizza Paya in Uptown Normal. At the time, it was Firehouse Pizza, which has moved a few doors down. We actually showed up one morning. There was just monthly preview services. We showed up one morning, and the doors were locked. We're like, oh boy, what are we going to do? Thank goodness that one of the overnight or early morning cleaning crew people was there, and as they were leaving, we were just like, thank you, and walked in and set everything up, and no one ever knew that we were there. In fact, we never even got billed or invoiced for that, so I think we might have just taken over this place without permission. And then ultimately in 2014, we started. But before we got there, with that group of at this point, maybe 24 people, I said, and actually the team came up with this strategy, let's try to talk to as many people as we know who absolutely hate church or were burned by church or were bored by church or for some reason never planned to be a part of anything that has any whiff of institutional religion whatsoever. And you know what? It was so cool to get to sit down with people and ask this question: why do you not go to church? And then a key part of this was to simply listen. Not get defensive, not try to give answers, not to try to argue why their reasoning was right or wrong or indifferent. Just simply listen. And I want to share with you some of those answers. You're not going to be surprised. I felt judged. Or this, I've never been invited. Do you know that there is a statistic, if you and your perfect little family look like church people, you get invited to church all the time. If you don't look like a church person, you almost never get invited to church. Whew. So people were never invited. People who are excluded for being LGBTQ+. People said, I don't know, it's weird. Other people said it's boring. Other people said, well, anytime I've tried to go, it's been made very clear, especially from the pulpit, that this is a place for families. And by family, I mean a mom, a dad, and kids. People told us they were not allowed to think, they were not allowed to ask questions, they felt they had to know the Bible before they came, or that there was an expectation that they were fully Christian, whatever that is, before they even stepped foot in the place. These were all the things that we heard, and we prayed about, and we talked about, and then we gathered one evening at Firehouse Pizza and ordered a couple of large pizzas, probably a couple pitchers of beer, and we started to think about not what our vision or mission for this church would be, but what our prayer for this church would be. And we began to write that prayer statement, and you know it. We said, all right, well, it has to be a place where absolutely everyone can come. And it can't be a place where anyone feels like they have to check their brain at the door. It has to include conversation about deep theology or about shallow jokes, whatever. But it has to be a place where anyone is allowed to talk about what they want to talk about. And then finally, we didn't want anyone to feel like, oh, I have to know or be this particular thing. It needs to be a community first, learning to live Christ-centered lives. And so that's where we are. And that's what we've continued to pray for 11 years. We've said that's who we are. Now, there's something else I want you to know. So we were set up tear down every week for years. And remember, I was only half-time, and it was exhausting, but it was super fun, and we continued to grow, and then people, because they're in their 20s, a lot of our initial people were in their 20s, it turns out even after you graduate, you still get jobs other places. So we'd fill the chairs up, and then they'd go down again, and then we need to fill them up again, and it was this constant cycle. But finally, in 2018, we had a 24/7 location. And on Easter of 2018, we got to start in what we call the bank facility. And there, we could say we have a place. Because if you tell someone you are starting a church, the very first question, it's not, what's your prayer statement? Why would someone ask that? The very first question, do you know what it is? Where are you located? Oh, sometimes we're in a movie theater, sometimes we're at the, That isn't really a great answer. That's the affordable answer, but that isn't a great answer for building a church. So when we finally had the finances to have a 24/7 building, that's when we really started to take off. We really started to get momentum. There were some things that happened in there that allowed us to get the word out about ourselves. And man, in 2019, we were doing it. We were filling the pews. It was happening. The volunteers that we needed were saying yes. The money that we needed, people were being very generous, and we nailed Christmas Eve that year, and we told everyone about our awesome January sermon series, and people came back for it, even more people than were at Christmas Eve in 2019, and January and February of 2020 was like, yes, we have made it. And then we got the opportunity to close for 18 straight months. And some of you organized closets and made sourdough bread or some such things. I had babies at home, and I say this, and this is true for a lot of clergy and anyone who worked in a church, those 18 months, you worked twice as hard to be half as effective. I was working 7 days a week and never actually getting to see anyone. And if you're a pastor, your heart is to spend time with people. And we got to do some fun stuff in that time. We had a wedding, and it was a special time. We actually, because our mission still existed, we had a space with 14 windows that would open. And so from August 2020 to April or May 2021, we opened for remote learning. And so students who would have been home alone, they maybe had a single parent, and that parent had an essential job or had gone back to work. A lot of these students had IEPs. They would have failed. And our focus wasn't childcare for little kids. It was helping high schoolers graduate or not fail their classes. And actually, in December of that year, when the grades went out, there was a letter that went in. Anyone who was in Normal West or Normal Community High School and had at least one F on their report card from first semester, a letter went out that said, if you want your child to get intense support and help to get these grades up, we recommend that you reach out to Hope Church's Remote Learning. It was really cool. And lots of people joined online. Jenny and Jared's on the drums. Jenny's the beautiful voice that we have. They started worshiping online at that time. And I have to be honest, I thought we were winning the pandemic, and I thought the church had doubled in size online, and I thought when we reopen, we are just going to pack out. And I'm so sorry to all the techies that we had at that time. I thought we're going to have to create more space. So we had been facing one direction, and we turned to face those windows, and it required rewiring everything, which so many wires have been run by so many volunteers. I'm so sorry for this particular time we did that, because in fall of that year, did everyone rush back out? Did you all start doing your lives just as you had before? And this was true for us and really for every church. It did not just reopen with a bang. And in fact, by 2022 is when we really started to understand that impact. And it was not only as, this is the formal term, butts in seats. It was also just being able to pay the bills. And in 2022, and I don't know if many of you know this, but we thought we were going to have to close the doors. It just didn't seem viable. And there were 3 different people who said, don't you dare close the doors to this church. The only reason I'm alive is because this congregation showed love to me. So I called one of my bosses, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And he was like, yes, you do. Stop being ridiculous about this. You have built this multiple times. You built the campus ministry, you built this. Just think of it as a new church start and rebuild it. And so we did. And then people came. And then, it's my favorite iteration of Hope Church, because it's now intergenerational and all you awesome people. And we're like, yes, we're doing it. And then we got evicted. And we got to close down again. And we got to buy this building. And in August, we bought this building, and we started trying to turn what was a very colorful gym into a space for worship. And you can see that there. That was the Ready for Carpet today was in November-ish. We were trying to get, maybe it was early December, because we were trying to get open for Christmas Eve. And we got open for Christmas Eve 2023. And in 2024, we started to do it again. And now you're here. Now we're in 2025. And I want to say to all of you, it may feel like it's a smallish church because every particular space that you're in is smaller. But every Monday morning when we check in, how many people were online, how many people were in the first service, how many people were in the second service, consistently we have around 200 people in worship every Sunday. What's kind of fun about it is that in each particular space, it continues to feel like a small church, even as we grow. Hey, I want to let you know, if you're like, there's not a ton of chairs to invite people. We have ways. We know how to arrange these chairs to get, 20 to 50 more in. Yeah, Isaac says yes. But we can get more chairs in here and continue to grow. But I want you to hear from some of our people about why they chose to come to Hope Church.
Well, to be honest, I was looking for the community. I tried other 12-step programs and this, that, and the other, and nothing really worked for me. And then I came here and I felt a sense of community, and I like the can-do attitude about the church. I like the fact that Monday night is the best conversation you can have in town.
The thing is that the thing that kept us from coming into church to start with was I wanted to find a place where I could bring anybody in my family, my husband, my kids, and that they would be accepted for who they were and what they believed or didn't believe, without any kind of, that they wouldn't have to turn any part of themselves off or hide any part of themselves to come in. And so the very first day we walked in, I'm sure I was a lot more nervous than John was because I'm always like unstructured social interaction. And we walked in and you had someone sitting, I think it was Anna maybe, and I walked up and she said, "Hello, what brings you to Hope?" or something, or something. And I said, I'm a believer and so I'm here, but my husband is on a faith journey and he's not. And she said, "That's awesome. I'm an atheist." And John felt so welcomed and like so okay being here, being who he was. And I felt so relieved knowing that we were in the right place. And then we read the prayer statement. And the prayer statement, I think, really said everything about it. I knew right then that I was home and that I had found the right place.
I went to numerous churches with family or friends through the years, the holidays, everyone goes at Christmas Eve, right? But it never felt right. Church felt scary. I feel like ever since I've known myself, I believed in God, but when I would go to church, it's very much, you have to be saved, you have to be baptized, and you cannot sin, and maybe you'll get into heaven. And that was my idea of church, right? It's a lot, and it's terrifying. So the idea of that was I just had to fit this mold that I didn't feel like I felt, or I was too different, or I wasn't living the lifestyle I should have to go to church regularly. That wasn't me. That was something I couldn't be a part of. And then coming to Hope, I felt very different. It was first of all, it was in the environment, right? We're in a dark movie theater, so there's a little less pressure, I feel like. But everyone was so kind.
I know what it feels like to feel like you're hiding in your own home, and you don't have to. You can have an hour a week where you join us, have a conversation, be yourself, and not have to hide. And not be afraid either. That is such a big thing for me. I spent so many years being afraid of what would happen when I came out, not if, when, and how that would affect everything of my life. And just having one place a week, even if it's just 1 hour a week, that's 1 hour more than you had before, to be able to say, I'm safe, I feel connected with other people get me.
Desperation for a supportive church community, and also a lot of smiling faces. I mean, as soon as I parked my car, the greeter was standing by the door. Someone opened the door for me. Someone showed us around. It was nice to see some LGBTQ affirming colors and things around, because it just made me realize that this church is truly fully accepting, and I just felt very welcomed in.
I want you to take a look at what we have here. Today we've looked at worship and community, but these represent the practices of hope. And you notice that they are not in a numerical order. If you are a person seeking to live a Christ-centered life, like first you do A, then you do B, then you do C, it's not like that. It is what all of these different practices, and they are interconnected to each other. There's a part of this that I want you to notice today, and that's the very center. As we think about the center of this image, these roots that are all connected to each other, the center is your soul. Some have said that the soul of a person is the being in human being. Parker Palmer, who is a theologian who lives up in Minnesota and started the Center for Contemplation and Action, contemplative practices and action out in the world. He describes the soul this way. He said it's like a beautiful, wild animal that And in this, that let's say you're on a hike in the woods, and you kind of see a deer in the distance. If you're like, I want a picture of that, and you start running toward the deer, like, what's it going to do? It's going to run away, right? And that is sort of like the soul. We can't just run at it like that. What's going on with my soul? What do you need to do if you want to be able to observe a wild animal? And it's interesting. I already knew I was going to talk about the soul in this way, and this is the week that Jane Goodall, the scientist who spent her career studying chimpanzees, how did she do that? She went out in the wild, and she was very still and very calm and very quiet. And for her, she did that for so long that she was able to develop a connection and a relationship with those chimpanzees. But for most of us, it's like if you sit still long enough, you might catch a glimpse out of the corner of your eye that wild animal and understand that is our souls. That we have to get still enough and quiet enough or practice being in peace to understand and feel it. And what I believe is that I can't look at all of you and say, here's what you need to do. You need to read your Bible. You need to go to church. You need to go serve in the community. What I believe as a spiritual leader is that each of your souls, every person's soul, knows what it needs. And that if you can get still enough, part of that is the practice of worship. Sometimes it's community because someone else sees in you what you can't see in yourself. If you can engage in that, you can begin to understand what your soul needs. And over the next 3 weeks, we're going to be talking about these other practices of hope. I think of the 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd, that one. Even if you didn't grow up in church, perhaps you've heard that one. But I want to say it this way. The Lord is my soulmate. I shall not want. They make me to lie down in green pastures. They lead me beside still waters. They restore my soul. That is the invitation that God offers to us, of restoration of our soul. And if you read that psalm further, it is an opportunity to feel peace and anointing and belovedness. That is the invitation from God. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, sometimes I know what my soul needs, sometimes I don't, sometimes I'm just getting through every day, like trying to put food on the table, get where I need to go. That's as far as I've gotten. There's something I want to invite you into. And if we were in a new member class, I would ask each person to share this, but this is going to have to be a larger group exercise. And that is the opportunity to write or draw or bullet point, whatever you want. It's not going to be graded. You all got A+. All right, so whatever you need to hear there. But the opportunity to write your own spiritual autobiography. And I actually have put on the app a place if you would like to receive a daily devotion. So it'll only be an idea and a question a day. If you go to the app, you will see that you can sign up for those daily devotions. Or if you don't have the app, there's this QR code, and that's for those of you online, of course, as well. You can join in on that, and we'll put up that QR code later, but it's easiest probably in the app to sign up. For those of you who are on Hope Digital, I invite you now into a time with Sophie. Ask lots of questions. Come on, interact there. What do you think about the soul knowing what it needs?
Well, welcome back, Hope Digital. I really filled this morning with what Jenny has brought to us, this new way of looking at our church and how we are connecting to one another. I loved the chat. We were talking about Doctor Who for a little bit. So if you're not actually watching the chat, just know that Doctor Who was referenced many times, and how Hope Church is like the TARDIS. It's so much bigger on the inside. And that's so true with Hope Church as well. I hope that you all are joining with us in the chat, not just now, but in the future, all the time. I've got Nora sitting here with me, so I get to hear some of those comments. I am so thankful for all of you. And I wanted to point out a few of those people in the video because some of them are you all. Mary and John have been online participants for years, part of Hope Digital. And now I'm now having a problem because I was trying to listen to myself and talk, which is a very difficult thing to do. But this is what we're hoping to build in the digital space, that place of worship, which is what we're doing right now, but also a place of community. Think of other ways. If we are serious about the digital or the Doctor Who Bible study, I'm all for it. I've got the book and the DVD, and we can order more books. We can make digital information. We can do it online if we wanted to. Whatever those ideas are, this is a place where we can build community together. And I encourage you to do that as well. Find me later in the week. I'm going to put out a video about Wednesday about this. And if you're interested in sharing, if you want to make your life a little bit easier, if you want to help invite people and you want to make it a little bit easier, you can share that video. It is now live on Facebook, and it will be on Instagram here in about 15 minutes, and YouTube as well. And I encourage you to share that. Whatever social media you use, we're going to be connecting to it, I promise. Jenny doesn't know this yet, I even have a TikTok set up. I'm the only person who's seen it so far, but there is a TikTok. And one day we will all be communicating together in unique ways. So we will continue to send you out with this blessing. And I ask that you may think about those people. Just ask them to come join on Facebook some Sunday. Ask them to come in person, and if they need an answer why you think it's important, share that video. Go forth today in peace and love, and let us be a worshiping community together. See you all later. Bye.